And now center of the ring. Flatliner to Miz. This is an all-out barrage from Bobby Lashley. Lashley got to be thinking hard. And there it is. The hard lock. It is cinched in. Center of the ring, nowhere to go. The Miz is tapping. The reign of the Almighty is upon us. Just like that.
Here is your winner by submission, and the new WWE Champion, Bobby Lashley.
We got a big battle in front of us, baby. And it's just started. So let's get fucking like a muffin. For 16 years, the American dream has done it with you. Don't fail me now. No, don't fail me now.
The Wrestlebros are back. Lou's cutting jokes before we even start. So that's just what happens. Captain Lou here with the Wrestlebro background.
That's right, bro. Representing the brand right here. Watch out! Oh, look at that.
Your head got cut off a little.
That's all right. See, I'm back. It's a magic trick now. It's a magic trick. CGI. Take it easy, Pete.
All right, Captain Lou, Vic Blaze. No pay-per-views, so we get a break from that. So there's really nothing to
WWE.
There's nothing to review, even though we've been on fire with the reviews. But so let's just talk some trending topics, some news. We should probably start with Lashley. Spoiler alert! This is a spoiler.
Spoiler alert! Spoiler alert!
If you fell asleep during Raw,
God, I hope you did. Not this week.
Lashley finally becoming WWE champion.
And new WWE champion, Bobby Lashley.
I think they dropped the Bobby. I think I'm not sure. But yeah,
still Bobby Lashley to me.
Destroying the Miz in like about 3-4 minutes.
And it only took 3 or 4 hours to finally get to the damn match.
Yeah, it's just one of those things that we have to deal with because they think it's gonna improve the show or make people, instead of trying to make the show better, they just try to find ways to get people to watch. It's like tricks.
Until the end, no, it's
like little tricks.
Yeah, I mean, listen, and they got to be able to tell a thread throughout the course of the show and keep viewers there till the end. So I get it and I understand it, but it's a little cheesy.
If you present it as a big moment in Lashley's career, which it was a big moment,
of course, huge.
But you kind of took it away. It was like a running joke all day, So you took a little bit of steam. This whole story, to me, took steam off of it.
Well, I mean, listen, I don't agree that they took any steam off of Lashley. Do I think that this was the most ideal way to put the title on him, considering the guy he was working with? No, I agree. Miz is not the guy. But listen, it doesn't matter whether, would it mean more had he beaten like a Drew McIntyre, Randy Orton, or somebody of that, of that level for a guy like Lashley? Absolutely. But listen, he's the champ. He's the man now.
I'm fine that he beat the Miz. That's not even. It's just everything was so convoluted. It was like all over the place. I mean, at least they got there, so that's a good thing.
Yep, they did.
Now I'm hoping they do the right thing and go with the Lashley destroys Drew before Drew gets him back. That's really what I want to see. I don't want to see Drew beat him at Mania. I really don't. I want to see the match. I want it to be a big one-on-one match. I know they're probably going to have Drew beat him so he gets his moment in front of the fans. I think it's a better moment if Lashley shocks the world and not only beats him emphatically, becomes the monster of the Raw brand. And, of course, Drew McIntyre has that small evolution, which is always great when wrestlers evolve. They tweak their character just a little bit. Just add a little something here, add a little something there. you think that you have the best version of the character until you're forced to make a change, and then all of a sudden it's a better version, like Roman Reigns, for instance. They did not want to go this heel route. They added all these little things to Roman, and look how much better he is. You can do the same thing with all your big stars. Give them a little more, a little more. Lashley beating the hell out of Drew, and then Drew adding another layer to his character, or something significant, a small change or whatever that's obvious to us, a flip of a switch, and he becomes an even better version of Drew. Because he's not the best version of Drew just yet. He's a great version, and I like what I see, but we can get more. I want more.
Well, see, it's been really weird to me because I think that I can buy everything you just said. I think the only difference would be is in a situation like that, I would have actually wanted Drew to be the champion going into a match where he feels like he's on top of the world. He understands the threat that Lashley is, but he goes in thinking that he's getting the best, he meaning Lashley's getting the best version of Drew in the ring. And then Drew could catch an ass whipping, and then that forces him to go to the drawing board. The difference is that since when Miz beat Drew, like I said, logically, WWE did a fantastic job of trying to create all the obstacles around Drew and make it logical as to why he would lose. You know, wrestle 30 minutes in the cage against 5 other guys, have Lashley come in and give him a 5-minute ass whipping, and then the Miz basically picks up the pieces. The problem with that is that you actually circumvent the match that should have happened, meaning everything in the pay-per-view that WWE just did would have made sense if the Miz did not, if that piece with the Miz cashing in and handing over the briefcase, if that didn't happen, then what we'd probably be talking about is Drew McIntyre versus Bobby Lashley for the WWE title at WrestleMania, with Drew as the champion, Lashley as the challenger. And then you could tell the story. Yes, Lashley wins. He beats him. And then it forces Drew to go through all this process that you were just talking about. It's just a matter that when you insert the Miz in there, you're talking about a guy, again, no disrespect to the Miz, but in that picture, one of these things is not like the other. And I'm sorry, my brother, you're the odd man out. So it doesn't make any sense to have that happen. Now, when we get to that match, part of me would like to see McIntyre win, only because with McIntyre winning, what it does is that it may force Lashley and to go to even a more aggressive level. The flip side, the thing that bothers me about this particular matchup, the way it's being laid out, is that we're getting probably the best version of Bobby Lashley we've ever seen currently, what you're currently seeing. And what we're getting out of Drew McIntyre is the best version of Drew McIntyre that we have ever seen. So when you put these two guys together, it almost seems like, yeah, something's got to give. Somebody's got to lose. The problem is that Lashley has been protected and presented fantastically over the better course of the last 6 to 8 months. He's been presented just outstanding. Drew McIntyre, on the flip side, has been probably the epitome of what a WWE babyface champion should be in the year 2020, 2021. It's the best possible version of what a babyface champion would be, and yet he's lost the title twice. He's already lost the title 2 times in the last 90 days. Like, that's something that kind of bothers me, because again, I would have liked to see McIntyre be undefeated since winning the championship, having nobody beats him, no matter what the obstacles are. Bobby Lashley, nobody's beating him, and he's just killing everybody. And then when these two guys collide, you're like, all right, something's got to give, meaning whoever wins gets catapulted, whoever loses doesn't get crushed. And I think that the way that, particularly for Drew McIntyre, the way that he's been presented, losing matches where he probably shouldn't have, I have a little bit of an issue with the possibility of Drew McIntyre possibly losing to Bobby Lashley in any way, shape, or form, because it kind of feels like I don't want, if you lose too much, especially at this level, you might go down notches. Would it be easy for him to come back up? Absolutely. But part of me is like, not the most ideal situation. Again, Lashley deserves to be the champion, and Lashley should be the champion. I just think that he shouldn't be the champion as of March 2nd, 2021. It should have been April 10th or April 11th, 2021. And at that point, you put the title on him. God bless you. Keep it moving.
All right, so the Miz has been pretty much the laughing stock of the WWE for the last couple months, and now it looks like we're probably gonna get him and Morrison against maybe Bad Bunny and Damian Priest, which is fine. Whatever. Bad Bunny has been doing great business for them. He's a big star, man. People don't just because people don't know. Maybe they don't know his music, or they don't know.
Well, in our community, we certainly know his music.
But yeah, in 2020 he was the #1 most streamed artist on Spotify. This is a huge star. So hey, if you got him, if you got a celebrity that, you know, somebody of that caliber who actually loves wrestling, you know, and you know, if it's helping, honestly, to me, it's helping Damian Priest, believe it or not, because it's keeping him at least on television consistently. They have to put Damian Priest on television because they've already established that Bad Bunny is with Damian Priest. That is the duo. Remember, they were gonna do Damian Priest with Kevin Owens. That would have faded so quick.
No,
so Bad Bunny is kind of helping Damian Priest because you have to put Bad Bunny on television, and you know that's his boy. So you know, good for him. They're probably gonna beat the Miz and Morrison at WrestleMania, and now that puts Miz he's in a weird spot. You know, he's a guy who makes a lot of money. He's been very consistent, but he's been pretty much the same guy now for I don't know how many years. He evolved from year 1, 2, and year 3. Like that Miz had a lot of evolution, and then that's it. He kind of
I could probably say that this version of the Miz has probably been a similar version of the Miz for, goodness gracious, we're talking somewhere between the last 8 to 10 years. Has been kind of this, what we see today. You know, it's kind of like an updated version of what the Miz persona was maybe 2012, 2013, like that Miz. Mm-hmm. You know, he's had some ups and downs. He's had some shining moments. I mean, don't get me wrong. He's had good moments, and it's weird because again, this is what I say, that sometimes we as fans could take a guy like Michael Mizanin and take him for granted because we're like, oh, he's always there and it's always the same. Consistency is fantastic. Don't get me wrong. You know, for a guy to be on WWE TV for the last 16 years, he's been there since 2005. 16 years, never left, never gone anywhere else, has never been gone from TV any more than maybe 1 or 2 months at a time when he was filming movies for WWE. He's always been a consistent presence. The issue that happens with the Miz is that sometimes, you know, familiarity breeds contempt. You know, meaning we see him all the time, so we take him for granted. Now, do I think, and again, I always say that I give the Miz a lot of love for what he does at the same time, but in the same breath, I kind of say, does he belong in the top of the card? No. And I say this because there might be people who might argue with me about this, but I was like, I don't think there's ever been a moment anywhere in Miz's career where you could put him at the top of the card and you could look back and say, yeah, Miz versus whomever, Miz versus John Cena, Miz versus The Rock, Miz versus, at the time, CM Punk, or, you know, the version of Daniel Bryan that we have now in 2021 is he's much more marketable than the Daniel Bryan of 2013, 2014. But you look at whoever the top stars in WWE were at that time. You know, could you believe Miz being that guy? I wouldn't. Because part of me would always think that Miz is there to lose. And if he does go over, there has to be a lot of funny business before that occurs. And that's something that kind of it stays with me because I want to give the Miz a lot of love, because 16 years of consistency in the WWE there's nothing short of excellent. Nothing short of that. And if anybody thinks that, because he's always losing, listen, I shit on the Miz a lot the way he's presented, only because he had been losing to every Dick, Tom, and Harry on the roster for the last 6 months. But the fact that he had the briefcase, quote unquote, kept his heat. And I'm like, no, that's stupid. Because the WWE champion at the time, Drew McIntyre, looks like a star. If you never watched wrestling and you just turn on the WWE by accident and you see Drew McIntyre, he looks like somebody immediately. So when you see McIntyre over the course of the last year, under these conditions, pandemic, all this other stuff, no crowds, no nothing, and he has been able in his own very unique way to draw people to him and get over, while the Miz on another segment on the show is getting beaten by Lucha House Party and getting his ass whooped by Bad Bunny. I'm sorry. Those pictures are completely incongruent with one another to actually make the Miz a believable champion. And yeah, he was champion for 8 days. So it was completely transitional, but completely unnecessary. And what's going to end up happening, listen, this match potential match, because it hasn't been official. If you have a potential match between Miz and Morrison against Bad Bunny and Damian Priest, yes, I agree with you. Bad Bunny is a big star. I am not a fan of his music, but that's beside the point. It's my own personal opinion. But I'm not going to deny that the man is not a star, that people all over the world know who he is. And if he is a wrestling fan and he shows the love that he's showing to professional wrestling, and knowing under this pandemic time that he's not touring, and WWE could have him on their TV, from now over the next 4 or 5 weeks leading into WrestleMania, bro, that's a no-brainer. And it keeps Damian Priest on television. It gives him a storyline. It gives him, and Damian Priest, as great as he is with the look and his ability and all of these things, if it would have just been Damian Priest on Raw, just Damian Priest, because they didn't do a good enough job with him in the Royal Rumble, making him stand out, and they gave him nothing for TV. So having Bad Bunny there is the biggest blessing for Damian Priest. It's after WrestleMania, once this is all over, and if and when Bad Bunny goes on his merry way, it's a matter of what do we do with Damian Priest then. And we'll cross that bridge when we get there. But when it comes to the Miz, he's in this funny position where he got elevated to the top of the card for a quick cup of coffee, and now he's right back in the middle. And as much as it sounds like I'm shitting on him, I'm not. But that's where he lives. That's his level. And that's okay. Because being in the middle in the WWE is being a main eventer anywhere else. I'm serious. Take the Miz out of WWE and put him in any other promotion.
Well, he's not main eventing in AEW. He's not.
I'm
I mean,
saying.
maybe he is, because I will say this: Miz has main event potential. He just hasn't been booked that way.
I'm just
so
saying.
If you book him correctly,
all I'm saying is when I
capable.
Okay, that's fine. I would disagree with that only because when I see the people who are main eventing in AEW, and you look at the Miz, I'm like the disparity, the difference between the levels are not that far off. So that's the reason why I'm saying the Miz being a middle guy in the WWE forever, he's a main eventer anywhere else.
I don't think that's how that works. I mean,
I'm just saying, like, take a look at a lot of the WWE talent who's worked in other places that we know that they've worked in other places.
Yeah, but some guys make sense. You tell me Adam Cole, yes. Finn
course.
Balor, yes. Kevin Owens, yes. Even a Sami Zayn can probably go main event AEW, but they fit. Miz does not necessarily fit. He has to work harder. He's gonna have to work really hard to gain the respect of his fans.
You know what? I could buy that.
But the Miz, what I was trying to say, Miz should be a main eventer anywhere just because of the way his promo skills are some of the best in the entire world. And that should be good enough to at least get you main event opportunities, which it did get a main event opportunities, but they just weren't good ones. Well, so that's it's not necessarily his fault. That's all booking. But the one thing that is his fault is that he is not evolving. Just like just like Morrison, ironically, has not evolved ever. He has not evolved ever. He's kept himself in perfect shape. His look is still great. He has these great, exciting, moves and this fun in-ring style, and and he just but you have to change. You have to, whether you love your character and you love all these little details about yourself. If you don't evolve, you get left behind.
I mean, listen, when I take a look at guys like Miz and Morrison, I look at them. Listen, a guy like John Morrison is, again, great look, outstanding talent, can do physically just about anything he wants. And I've said this because when I heard Shawn Michaels say this a long time ago about him, that he says the one thing that he's missing is the element of toughness, meaning John Morrison. He's got a great look, athletically can do everything. But the thing is, you don't believe he's tough. Like that's the thing that's always missing with him. It looks like it's a performance. He's not in a fight. He's not in a struggle. It's always a performance with him. So that is always going to be the one thing about him. And listen, at this point in his career, he's already got 20 years in at this point. Do I expect it to change? No. And the thing about The Miz is that The Miz is a perfect, he is, when people talk about Randy Orton being the quote unquote prototypical WWE superstar in physical look, I'm like, no, The Miz is probably the best example of a prototypical WWE wrestler, meaning he's not the best wrestler in the world, but he's good enough. He's not the greatest promo in the world, but he's good enough.
Well, I think he's an exceptional promo.
Yes, but what I'm saying is that would you put him in a promo contest with The Rock? Probably.
Well, The Rock.
I'm just saying, like that's like, of course, but that's what I'm saying. He's a very good promo. I'm not saying that he's not. I'm just saying that he's not
in the top 10%. Probably
top 15. I'd give him top 15, top 20%. I don't know about top 10%, but maybe top 15, top 20. I would give him in the percentage in terms of promos. But the thing is, I've never seen The Miz work anywhere else, and I doubt that I ever will.
Oh, I don't know. There's no reason to. He makes a lot of money. He's a company guy.
And the thing is for him is that when I look at The Miz, part of me thinks is that he loves pro wrestling, but I think the thing that he loves the most is the opportunities he has in the WWE to do the reality TV show, to do the radio appearances, to host TV shows. Like, that's really what he wants. Like, I think that he's setting himself up perfectly. I don't think that The Miz is ever going to really care to say, I'm not trying to prove to anybody that I'm the best wrestler in the world. I've been in WWE for 16 years when people thought I'd be here for 10 minutes. So in that, he can just basically tell, I don't need to work anywhere else. But it's a matter that part of me believes that if you was to remove The Miz from the WWE and put him somewhere else, it'd be a fish out of water. And
he doesn't really fit anywhere else.
Yeah,
he'd have to evolve. He'd have to evolve.
Yeah.
And or who knows? Maybe he would just like Cody. When he was in WWE, I thought I saw that's all I always knew he was good. To me, he was good. I liked him, and he got a lot of things over. Believe it or not, he tried a lot of different things, and they didn't get super over, but he got them pretty. Like the fans were behind a lot of his stuff.
Yeah, of course.
The mask and the paper bag and even the mustache.
That
all that stuff the fans got behind.
Dashing Cody Rhodes.
But then when he leaves, you see a completely different side of him, and everything starts to click, and maybe he has enough experiences. So the same thing could happen to other people. I don't know if Miz is the athlete that Cody is or has the mind for the business that Cody has, so maybe he wouldn't, but who knows?
I don't know. Okay. I mean, listen, I think that in Cody Rhodes' case, when he left WWE and then started working the indies before AEW, it was a matter that Cody Rhodes, growing up in the business, having all of that natural knowledge and being a high school and college wrestler, and then having all those years of experience in the WWE, and then working with guys in the indies who clearly are not as experienced as he is, but they're definitely willing to put in the work to try to make the matches as good as possible. And so the audiences that they were performing in front of, Cody Rhodes is the big star, but at the same time, if Cody is willing to work the style of match that audience is accustomed to, it levels up greatly because Cody is much more experienced and has more knowledge than most of the people he's working with. So he's able to take the very best parts of those wrestlers' repertoires and then elevate that to another degree to where it looks that much better because of all of his knowledge and experience. So that was the caveat with him in terms of when he left WWE and went to work in the Indies.
All right, so we're talking about Cody Rhodes. So let's just talk about Shaq. Similar situation to the Bad Bunny situation. Shaq is not in his prime, but he is a pop culture icon. He's a guy that is one of the most recognizable figures, definitely in the history of basketball.
No, absolutely. Absolutely.
Shaq shows up, everybody knows it's Shaq. He's right up there with Snoop. Everybody knows him,
Yes. For vastly different reasons.
For vastly different reasons, but everyone knows who he is. Now, the good thing about Shaq, it's always weird when you get a celebrity and you put him in the ring. But at least with Shaq, he is a legitimate 300 and maybe 40 pounds. He does, 7 foot, legit 7-footer. He's always been a super athlete. Even when he was, Lakers Shaq, who was kind of chubby and, sweating a whole bunch, he was still one of the most athletic big men in the history of basketball. Super duper strong. So at least you can believe that if he's to pick Kobe up and get his hands on him, he can probably tear him in half, just by. So, at least we have something to work with. We do have something to work with here, and they do have the girls involved. It was supposed to be Brandy, but she's pregnant, so Red Velvet's gonna take her spot, and Jade Cargill. This leads me to believe that Cargill is probably going to get the win in this match, and I think she might beat Red Velvet. It's a good opportunity.
Well, she ain't going to beat Cody.
Well, who knows if they cheat and if Shaq goes full blown heel and goes full pro wrestling heel. Imagine that Shaq pulling out the brass knucks from his trunks. How hilarious would that be?
Oh my God.
How hilarious. No, but what how do we book this? I think it's over. I think that's one and done. I don't know. I think
it has to be. There's no way this could be done more than once.
I mean, they can do another Shaq match in 6 months or 8 months or 10 months. They can do something else. But for now, it'll be over. This is the end of this story, I think. Because Brandy's not coming back anytime soon. So the story's done. Does Jade go over? Do you put that on her? There's her coming out party.
This match, it's weird because this match has a lot of appeal because of Shaquille O'Neal. However, this is the epitome of a shit show just waiting to happen. I don't think that there's any way that this match comes across looking. This match is going to be a mess. Now, the one thing that you're hoping for is that you get a beautiful mess and that it's something that's memorable and not a hot mess that we all roll our eyes at and be like, oh, Lord, this was a waste of however much time they gave it on free TV. Now, Shaquille O'Neal is undeniably, for those who are basketball fans and sports fans, Shaquille O'Neal transcended the NBA and has become, a cultural icon here in the United States. When you say Shaq, the first thing you think is Shaquille O'Neal. The issue is that this whole storyline from the very beginning was confused. It was very conflated and confused right from the beginning. AEW did everything ass backwards in terms of introducing Jade Cargill, because she came out and basically was like, okay, this is a very impressive looking woman who comes out, basically insults the biggest babyface on the roster. Brandy then all of a sudden goes full-blown hood on this woman,
which was great.
Yeah, it was. It was.
They caught me off guard. That shit was so good.
It was, but at the end of the day, what ended up happening is that even if this was supposed to be a tag team match, it was already gonna be bad because Jade Cargill clearly, just the promo alone clearly shows you that she's nervous but you could tell by her footwork when she was just walking around, you could clearly tell that she's not comfortable walking around the ring. She didn't even have to wrestle. Just by the way she walked around the ring, you clearly knew that she wasn't comfortable in there. And even if Brandy, and God bless her, congratulations on the pregnancy. Even if Brandy was to be wrestling in this match, Brandy Rhodes is not a great wrestler. So Brandy Rhodes is 6 inches taller and let's say 30 pounds lighter. And I'm being generous, but it's probably much more than that. There's no way that she would be able to physically handle Jade Cargill in any way, shape, or form. When you look at Shaq is clearly not taking this seriously in the way that he's cut his promos and all the shit that he's doing. He doesn't look like he's taking it seriously.
Oh, I think he's gonna take. Shaq takes everything pretty seriously.
But what I'm saying is that when this match occurs this Wednesday night, if he comes out there and does a great job, then all right, bravo. But all the promos and all the things that he's been doing is like he's taking it lightly. And the difference is that although it might be like, hey, quote unquote, I'm just being like, this asshole heel kind of thing, like, oh, I'm bigger and stronger and can do whatever. It still has to come across a little more seriously because of the fact that you're working with the biggest star in the promotion. So it has to come across a little more seriously. Cody has made just about everything he's done in AEW look good. This is by far his biggest challenge. And it's not a matter of, oh, well, Shaquille O'Neal is a foot taller and 150 pounds heavier than him. No, it happens to be that you're working with a guy who's a foot taller and 150 pounds heavier, who's never wrestled, like never, ever wrestled a pro wrestling match. And your tag team partner is, Red Velvet, who is a tiny woman who probably has experience in the ring, but not the most experienced. And then the other girl on the other side of the ring is, size comparison, you could put him the same as between Shaq and Cody, obviously not with the measurements, and she's got no experience wrestling. So that's by far his biggest challenge in terms of trying to direct traffic out there and actually make this plausible as a wrestling match. Not, and if it turns into a giant spectacle, we'll see what it becomes. But to me, this is just one of those things of AEW putting things together. And at the end of the day, it's like you have a grandiose idea, and it sounds like a grandiose idea, but then when you put it in its proper execution and you think about it to its logical conclusion, you can start poking holes at it, all day long. And the thing is, for AEW, if this is all about, having the big spectacle and they don't really care at the end what it looks like, it can look like a mishmash of shit, but as long as it's Shaquille O'Neal wrestling. And now that you have Paul White, the Big Show, on AEW TV, and tomorrow is technically the first live show since he signed, don't think for one second that you're not going to see him tomorrow night face to face with Shaquille O'Neal, because that's almost a gimme that it's going to happen.
Yeah, that's why I said more stuff can happen with Shaq, because you do have
yes,
something that's been brewing for years.
And the WWE, and I say this, I'm not saying that the WWE didn't want to pull that trigger, because I'm sure that it was probably a matter of money and situation with Big Show and Shaq, because I know that Shaq has wrestled at WrestleMania. He was in the Battle Royal and all that jazz, but never got the big one-on-one match. That Big Show versus Shaq would have been an easy WrestleMania feature match any year you do it. It's just a matter that they couldn't pull the trigger. And I'm sure that this match with Cody and Shaq was supposed to happen at the pay-per-view had it been scheduled for February 27th. But as soon as it got moved to March 7th, that match went down the toilet, because it's the same day as the NBA All-Star game. And it's being televised on TNT. And guess who's going to be there? Shaquille O'Neal.
Yeah.
So that's kind of why it's happening on Wednesday night. But at the same time, what I'm looking forward to seeing in this match is that it's going to be a mess. It's just a matter of whether it's going to be a beautiful mess, which we can look at it and remember it fondly and and chuckle, or we'll just roll our eyes and be like, this was a giant waste. So that's what I'm looking forward to, to seeing what happens.
I don't think it's going to be a mess. It can be a mess because of the, obviously execution might be a problem for Shaq and for
absolutely.
Jade. obviously, I don't know what Jade's capable of. I've seen none of her work. She has had matches in the past. It's not her first match. It's her first match on probably television, but I don't know what she's capable of, so I can't speak on it. Uh, we've seen celebrities not have great matches, but we've seen it before. It is possible to have something that's passable and accomplish what they want it to accomplish. You get what I'm saying? So
I do.
I think
I do.
Cody is. This is his. This is why. This is. I say with AEW. What AEW for me, for my taste, what they do well is they give you a little bit of everything. This is Cody's. This is his stuff. This is what he does. This type of storytelling, finding ways to take unique situations. How do I make this work? How do I figure this out? This puzzle, right? How do I put these pieces together? But when Cody is given these types of, I think of Wardlow, who's like this great athlete, but was really, really green at the time. He's a lot better now. But this was important for Wardlow and important for Cody when they put them together. And they had such a simple match that was ultra effective and came off to me beautiful to me. For me, it accomplished. I think Wardlow looked like a beast. It built to that big moment off the cage. Cody still got his win. To me, it worked beautifully, and they kept it really, really simple. I think Cody can find a way to make this fun, but make it simple, even if it looks a little crazy. I think it's gonna be simple in his mind. He's gonna direct it the way Triple H directed that WrestleMania match with Kurt and Steph and Ronda, which could have been a disaster, but they made it super fun. They made that match super fun. It's not the same. I know Kurt is, but this is a Kurt that couldn't do much. This is Stephanie who sucks as a wrestler, but not as a.
But she's got a mind for that.
I get it, but she's not a good wrestler. She's not.
No, I'm not saying that she is, but what I'm saying is that Stephanie McMahon.
She gets it. I know she gets it.
She gets it way more.
Yeah, of course. This doesn't have to be that. I'm not saying this is that. And Ronda is going to be 50 times better than Shaq could ever be, because Ronda
or any of the participants in that match, with the exception of Cody Rhodes.
Well, I'm not going to say that. Like I said, I don't know what Jay Cargill is going to be in 5 years. So she might be, we didn't know Charlotte was going to turn into Charlotte. We didn't know Sasha was going to turn into Sasha.
Of course, I get it. But the thing about it is that with Ronda Rousey, to use her as the example, when Ronda Rousey came to WWE, we knew her as the UFC champion, the Olympic judo fighter, and the woman, at that time, the baddest woman on the planet. Obviously, WWE marketed all of that stuff. Mm-hmm. But the thing about it is that when wrestlers go from, shoot fight disciplines, meaning either mixed martial arts, Olympic wrestling, whatever, very, very few can transition successfully to professional wrestling and do so in a way where they can get the selling, the facials, good offense, everything looks great, and nobody gets hurt at the end of the day. And Ronda Rousey on that particular night at WrestleMania looked better than probably anybody I'd ever seen. That was probably the best debut I'd ever seen anybody have, until Pat McAfee had his match with Adam Cole. Until that moment, that was by far, for me, the single best debut that anybody had ever made in pro wrestling. So,
Ronda is special.
Of course, yes, she is.
And hopefully she comes back. But either way, what I was trying to say is that this is Cody's specialty. I know Cody has a master plan. He's a thinker. He's gonna try to figure it out. I think Shaq will have his moments to do something great. Something that looks impressive. I'm sure he can't do much, but he can pick up Cody and throw his ass around a little bit.
Of course,
and Cody can sell his ass off for him. So
he will. Of course, he will.
They can use that template that WWE used when they had Ronda, and they didn't know. I know they probably knew Ronda can do a lot of cool stuff, but if you notice, when they put that match together, it was, let's give Ronda spot A, spot B, spot C, spot D, and it was very well laid out. It was very smart, and it highlighted what she can do well, and she didn't do much in between. It was all like, Let's get to her next spot.
Well, that was obviously done that way because that whole match, Triple H and Kurt Angle, with all due respect to the two of them, were like they were the side players in that particular match. The audience wanted to see at that night. The audience wanted to see Ronda Rousey kick Stephanie McMahon's ass. That's what that match was laid out for. And Triple H and Kurt Angle were there to basically get them from point A to point B. With your example with Cody Rhodes and Wardlow, yeah, I agree with you. Cody had a great match with Wardlow, but here's the difference: Wardlow's 20 years younger and is a trained professional wrestler. So with Shaquille O'Neal, yes, Cody's going to bump his ass off for him, and he's going to try to make Shaq look as good as possible. But what ends up happening at the end of this match is, at the end of the day, Shaq is near 50 years old, not a trained professional wrestler, more than likely is not going to take a lot of bumps. So at the end, Cody's not beating him unless Big Show comes in there and sucker punches him and does the KO punch type thing, where Cody gets the win and he gets to be removed and he gets the graceful exit. And then the next thing we get is Big Show versus Shaq at some later date on AEW. But it's not a match that the execution, there's going to be, I don't expect any brilliance out of this match. I really, really don't. I expect this match to be a mess. It's just, again, whether it's going to be a beautiful mess or a hot mess, that's left to be determined. But a mess indeed it will be. I don't expect it to be anything that's clean and pretty in any stretch.
All right, so real quick, there are rumors that NXT might be moving to Tuesdays, which to me, I know this Wednesday night stuff was fun, but in reality, it's hard to keep up with everything. It's really difficult as a wrestling fan. I want to watch NXT, but you're forcing me to choose. So then I watch AEW, and then I try to catch up with NXT. I'd rather just watch them both and enjoy both. That's what I want to try to do. And if they're thinking of moving NXT to Tuesdays, I know it was fun Wednesday night. Yay, fun. And it is fun. And it's fun for the fans, and it's fun for arguing and debating and rating talk and all that stuff. That is just fun, It's just interesting. But the thing that'll be best for everyone, for the fans that like both, and for NXT and for AEW, they're sharing probably 300, 400,000 people in reality. There's been 200,000 people swing in either direction. There's been times when, when NXT was doing the overrun, after the show, going an extra 10 minutes, where 250,000 people switched over in one shot. That's a lot of people that should be watching, that want to watch both shows. And, to just leave them, making decisions and trying to figure it out. For me, I'm going to be happy with this. Impact will probably move to Thursdays. So you're going to have Monday Raw. You're going to have Tuesday NXT, Wednesday AEW, Thursday Impact, Friday SmackDown. Right? Yeah, yes. Friday SmackDown. Saturdays you'll be off unless you get an AEW pay-per-view. Sundays you get a WWE pay-per-view every now and then. And
every other week.
They need to figure that out. But either way, I think it needs to happen. It was fun while it lasted, but all right, let's give, you're losing money by doing this.
Well, I mean, and to give context as to why, this move might be happening. So for NBC, the NBC Sports Network that actually is on cable right now, and the NBC network is actually shutting down NBC Sports Network. And the reason why NXT might be moving off of Wednesday nights is because NBC Sports Network usually airs NHL hockey on Wednesday nights on the NBC Sports Network. And what's going to end up happening is once NBC Sports Network ceases to operate, which I believe it's going to be March or April of this year, then those games will more than likely air on the USA Network, which is going to force the hand to move NXT out of Wednesday nights and move them over to another night, which will more than likely be Tuesday. As far as I'm concerned, the whole Wednesday night war thing, I've said this in previous videos, there is no Wednesday night war. There isn't. It's a nice, it's a nice marketing thing for for debate shows like ours, and we can have fun doing it. But there is no Wednesday Night War. You're talking about two shows that, for the most part, let's say that they're splitting somewhere in the neighborhood of 1.3 or 1.5 million viewers. And, again, from 1 week to the next, you could be talking swings, excuse me, of 150, 200,000 viewers. So it is what it is. This benefits, I think that the team that benefits the most from this is AEW, because as soon as NXT goes off of Wednesday nights, AEW is going to have 1 million viewers every week immediately. Like, it's at that point, if AEW doesn't get 1 million viewers, at that point, there is no excuse for the NXT degradation of audience. That's not the issue. Then you'd have to start looking at AEW's product and just saying there just isn't enough eyeballs for that individual product. NXT.
Well, you can say the same thing about NXT, no?
Correct. And I'm getting to that point. NXT, when they get moved to Tuesday nights, I don't expect NXT to get to 1 million viewers that quick. I just don't. I expect that NXT will gradually get there, and when they do, they'll stay there. But it's not going to be immediate. It's going to take several months to get there, because the audience for NXT doesn't appear to be there, and the program has been up and down. And I think that what NXT's issue has been is that I always thought that NXT had a better wrestling show, but it was slow and prodding and boring. And then it got to a point where they started removing some of the stars of the show that we want to see, and they moved them on to Raw or SmackDown. And then the stars that they do have on NXT right now are some of the stars that we thought were slow. And not slow meaning they work slow. It just means that the show felt boring, and then you're not engaged with the stars. That's the reason why I'm saying that with NXT, it's going to take them time once they move to Tuesdays, that they'll be on their own. Impact, again, and I agree with you, Impact will have to move, because Impact only gets on average 150 to 200,000 viewers a week. If NXT moves to Tuesday, that goes to 0. They have to move. That, like, the audience will tune into NXT, and it's not that the fans don't want to watch Impact, but if they had to choose, more than likely a lot of those fans will go to see the WWE show. But that's kind of where I would probably see it. AEW stands to benefit immediately from it. They'll get to 1 million viewers immediately, because the audience knows that AEW is on Wednesday nights. The wrestling audience is not stupid. They follow the shows wherever they go. But the fact that the WWE would be moving their show to a new night, you would think that they would suffer a little bit because of it. And then it'll take some time to establish NXT on its new day and time, and then slowly but surely, build the show up. I think that with NXT, it's going to take them a little while, but once they get to 1 million viewers, they're going to stay there every week in that 1 million plus range. With AEW, they'll get there immediately. It's a matter of sustaining it. And that's really where that question is. So I think both teams will benefit, but AEW looks to benefit from it immediately.
All right. Let's talk about AEW's pay-per-view coming up in March 7th, Revolution. Let's try to make some predictions.
Sure.
Let's see what we can do with some of the booking, what's going to happen after some of these matches, what direction are some of these people going.
Correct.
And right off the bat, this is an interesting one. So we have the Young Bucks against Chris Jericho and MJF for the titles. This is important. This is an important story because you have MJF in the Inner Circle, which is obviously we've all been expecting him to do something, suspect. So they already got Sammy Guevara out of there. They can go 1,000 ways. They can, MJF could turn on Jericho and Sammy Guevara could make the save. Whatever. MJF can take over the whole Inner Circle. Chris Jericho could see.
Or Sammy Guevara joins MJF.
Sammy Guevara could join MJF. Yes. Jericho could see that MJF is full of shit. Go full babyface on him. Force the Inner Circle to make a decision. Because they've been kind of showing you, like, some people are starting to like MJF. Some of the guys in the circle are like, oh, you know what? You're growing on me. Like, we've teased a bunch of that where it's made it awkward probably for some of those guys, if this was real life, they would probably feel a little uncomfortable because they probably like Sammy, and now they're starting to like MJF, and MJF has pretty much been turning them against Sammy.
Or against Jericho, you mean?
Well, against Sammy first,
Yeah.
and now he's probably trying to do the same thing with Jericho. So whatever happens in this match can lead to something big. So what's gonna happen? I don't think Bucks are losing the titles.
That I agree.
They can.
Here's the thing.
Lose. They can. Lose.
I agree with you that I don't think the Bucks are going to lose the titles, because the thing that gets me about this particular storyline is, you already know how I felt when MJF and Wardlow came to the Inner Circle. You know that I hated it. I just thought, like, this is stupid. MJF and Wardlow need to be their own separate thing. Putting them in the Inner Circle is just, there could be too much of a good thing. And I think that with MJF and Wardlow, it got to that point for me. Mm-hmm. This storyline was designed, obviously, you know, that this is going to be, MJF is going to try to turn all the guys in the Inner Circle and take it over. Sammy Guevara was the only guy that looked at MJF and, hey, you're full of shit. And, you know, he was quick. You know, Sammy Guevara was quick to point it out. And everybody's looking to Sammy like, no, he's not that bad. Little by little, you know, MJF has baby-faced himself to Hager, baby-faced himself to, you know, Santana and Ortiz.
Yeah.
And then he's trying to babyface Jericho. Listen, Jericho knows that MJF is full of shit. Let's not get this twisted. Jericho knows this. The problem that I see with this is that if MJF was to turn on Jericho, the reason why I don't think that it would actually be sloppy is because Chris Jericho is at this stage right now, he's just not a sympathetic babyface. He's just not. And I think that to try to get to the point where you're going to make Chris Jericho a sympathetic babyface, it's no. That's the reason why I'm saying that in this situation it looks sloppy. Sammy Guevara could get over as a babyface. The thing is that in order for that to happen, the other 6 members of the Inner Circle have to get into agreement and say, all right, we're unified. Sammy's the problem. We're taking him out. And it has to be a unified front to where now you clearly know who the heels are and who the baby faces are. And then little by little, if you're going to get a crew around Sammy, then you can kind of start telling some stories with guys who have had problems with the Inner Circle in the past, and you can start reintroducing them into a group with Sammy. But it's not going to work if you have MJF turn on Jericho, because Jericho is not being the dumb bit. He's not the dummy here. He's not being like, he's not playing the role, in no disrespect, he's not playing the role of Sting, meaning that he was always so trusting to heel partners. Jericho knows that MJF is full of shit. He knows that.
Yeah.
So
he wants to use MJF as much as MJF wants to use him.
Correct. So that means that if MJF was to turn the others against Jericho, it looks sloppy because Jericho is not a baby face. He's not a sympathetic baby face. And even if you put Sammy Guevara in that picture, Sammy Guevara still doesn't come across as a sympathetic babyface either, because it hasn't been yet established. That's the point. And then it's still heels versus heels. And at the end of the day, the audience members get confused because why should we care that baby faces and baby faces are upset when the logic is they're assholes, they're bad guys, they should both lose. And they should both get their asses kicked. Yeah. So until you establish some kind of real babyface dynamic and do something that clearly establishes a babyface, this doesn't make sense.
Yeah, but we do know that in wrestling, all it takes is one moment, all it takes is one promo, and your perception is completely flipped. Like whatever, it's happened many times. It's happened to me. I've hated people, and they've turned me on a dime. This.
But okay, that's great. But you know, if you've ever heard this saying that says that, you know, hate is just an expression of love, well, that's so this is what I'm saying, right? You know, hate is just an expression of love. It's just a more perverted response to it. But what ends up happening is that these guys, and again, I would have cared more if these guys would have been more serious. But since they had a period and they're still kind of in it, they're starting to get out of it. But they were in a period where they were like complete joke-like characters, even though they were heels. So all the steam and believability that they had was gone, and they're trying to reestablish it. And I'm saying I want to re-engage, but at the same time, I'm not bought in. And part of it is for me is that I really like MJF and Wardlow as a separate entity from the Inner Circle. And I think this would have made more sense had Jericho and MJF been a tag team, a tacit tag team, not being together as part of the Inner Circle. Because then you can draw the comparisons to where the guys in the Inner Circle initially say, hey, we don't like MJF as your partner. He's still on the outside looking in. Then MJF can babyface, Santana, Ortiz, and Hager, babyface them. He, MJF, and Wardlow know exactly what they're doing. And then Sammy Guevara can still be like Jericho's best friend, telling him, Chris, don't do this. Chris, don't do this. Chris, don't do this. And then MJF could eventually then turn Santana, Ortiz, Hager on Sammy and Jericho, and then you create the babyface.
That'll be cool too. Yeah, I like that.
So that's the reason why I'm saying that having MJF in the group, don't like it because it works best when they're separate entities. Because now if he's on the inside, Jericho's basically saying, I know you're full of shit, and he's trying to be the smart heel, like, hey, I know that you're trying to pull a fast one on me, but it's like, okay, well, that's great. The problem is that there's no babyface dynamic. There doesn't appear to be a moment that can happen where we're like, holy crap, Jericho's been turned babyface. At least not the way the story's being told.
All right. We have Darby and Sting versus Ricky Starks and Brian Cage. Talk about a complete showcase match. You got Ricky Starks. This is high profile. Darby Allin, high profile. You get to work with Sting. Brian Cage already got his hands on Sting, got to powerbomb him. So this is Sting's first. That's a good thing. I thought that was.
I'm going to explain why I didn't like it.
To me, that's a good thing because
I'll let you go first, but I'm going to explain why.
We gotta get some heat on the Stinger, baby. Like we can't just let this guy come every weekend.
Correct, but I'm going to tell you why I didn't like it. I'm going to let you go first, but I don't disagree with you, but I'm going to tell you why I do.
Based on the way the story's been told, or based on the scenario and the situation, you got the TNT champ. You have Sting in his first match. It's very important to establish him so that he can eventually help establish somebody else. He's already helping Darby just by being seen with him. He came down from the rafters, Darby, which was cool. He had his face semi-painted like Sting, which I've been calling for weeks. So I'm happy. He didn't do it all the way though. Well, he added some details,
but it's cool that he did it.
I like the little nod. It's always cool to give, the respect to the thing. I think Bully Ray did it once. It didn't work as well because Bully Ray, he's not naturally cool, right? He's like this big.
I'm not going to say that about Bully Ray. If he listens to this show, I'm not trying to get smacked up.
I like Bully Ray, but he just doesn't come off as this cool character, this hip, young, whatever.
I get what you're saying.
But Darby does, so I think it works really, really well. I don't know how it's a street fight. I think it's a street fight for a reason. I think you got weapons. Sting gets to use his bat. To me, Sting and Darby go over. And I think this is probably over for now. They can revisit this down the road, but I don't necessarily know what they're gonna do with Sting. Is Sting gonna go after that TNT title? It makes sense, right? Because he was kind of like not the face of TNT, but he kind of was, but not really, but kind of, right? Because WWE was so weird, right? He should have been the face, but it makes sense if I'm Sting, right? If this TNT title is a real title, it's a real thing, and I'm Sting, and I've been working on TNT as a top babyface for I don't know how many years he was on TNT television. A lot.
Mm-hmm.
I want that title. How do you tell it? It's a really difficult story to tell, but you know, it can be told eventually. If they want to go that route, they don't have to. But it's out there. It's out there.
Well, listen, if you're gonna go that route, I would never mention that Sting believes he was the face of TNT 20 years ago, and now he wants to be the face of TNT again. That would be stupid. If you're Sting, you've always been the world champion. With all due respect, if you're Sting and you're in AEW and you don't want to go after the AEW championship, there has to be a very good reason. Now, the reason could be like a student versus teacher type thing, and the belt is the trinket on the line. That might be a story that I can buy. But to say that I was the face of TNT 20 years ago, what you're doing is you're dating Sting because you're tacitly implying that he's old.
He doesn't have to say 20 years ago.
I know, but let's just say that that tacit implication is kind of telling the audience that he's older. All right, so we don't want that kind of anything like that being implied by the TV show. The TV show should never imply that. Now, when it comes to this match, listen, it's gonna be an anything goes street fight. It's perfectly designed that way, and listen, I get it. I get it why it's being done that way. It's basically being done to be some kind of it's done to be a spectacle, because of the fact that, listen, out of the 4 guys in this match, you know, Brian Cage is very impressive, but I think that I've come to your side when it comes. The more I see him, the less I like him, because I just think that for me, it's like he's a guy that I'm like, damn it, you obviously don't know how to work to the way that your image looks. Ricky Starks is fantastic. Ricky Starks is going to benefit the most from being in this match, because he's going to be featured and showcased, and he is a guy who is ready. And AEW needs to do more with him, a lot more with him. Darby Allin benefits, and listen, Darby Allin he's a good young wrestler. He's very much over with the AEW audience, and I like him a lot. Yes, he's painfully small, and a lot of the things that he does look ridiculous because of his size, but he's got a lot of charisma that makes up for it. And Sting is, listen, with all due respect, this is not a knock on Sting. He's a senior citizen who still looks fantastic, but he's not going to be able to work a quote-unquote wrestling match at his age. It has to be a spectacle so that you can cover up for some of the things that Sting can no longer do in the ring. Now, going to the spot where a couple of weeks ago on Dynamite, the heels laid Sting out. The reason why I thought that it was problematic was not the fact that Brian Cage got his hands on him. Not at all. It was a matter of how it was treated afterwards. If AEW has a perception that their audience knows everything that's going on everywhere else in professional wrestling, then AEW, the announcers have to tell the story as to why it's important that Sting getting beat up, why it's so much danger to it. Because in 2015, when Sting wrestled against Seth Rollins, they're not going to say, oh, Sting wrestled Seth Rollins on a WWE show. They're not going to say that. But they can simply say that in 2015, Sting had his last match because he almost paralyzed himself. And that creates the danger that when he takes the power bomb, the announcers are like, oh my God, no, his neck is back. No. Boom, he takes the bump. Down he goes. What you need to do at that point is that you need to make a tremendously big deal out of it. Meaning, Sting can't move. Sting has to be carted out. You create the tension around that to where now, holy shit, the heels got their hands on Sting, laid him out. They had to put him in a brace, take him out in a stretcher and put him in an ambulance and get him out of the arena. Then and the thing is, then from there, you don't see Sting the following week. You see Sting on the Go Home show, which would be this Wednesday night. When Darby Allin, the thought process is Darby has no partner. Darby has no partner. Now he's going to be on his own 2-on-1 against Cage and Starks. And then when the heels are about to lay Darby out and say, well, screw it, we're about to kill all our competition. We're going to have a night off on Sunday. Then Sting shows up and does all the same shit that he did the last week to the heels. And you do it in the go home show. And then Sting can do the Stinger Splash and the Scorpion Death Trap and all the shit that he's doing. But you have to create that sense of danger. And AEW missed a tremendous opportunity there because you basically took a bump and it's like, oh yeah, he took a bump. Commercial break, next segment. Make a big deal out of it, man. That's huge because your audience knows why Sting hasn't wrestled in the last 5 years. They know why. You're not gonna tell them in all the details, but you have to imply it. And when it's done, because that would have been a bigger moment for Brian Cage to say that he got his hands on Sting, he put him down, and they carried him out. And then Taz got all the material in the world to cut on his promos. We took out the mighty Sting, blah 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 blah. And Taz can cut a much better promo than I could. But they keep missing these opportunities. These are the small details that when you miss them, the matches go flat and the stories go flat. It's not that they're necessarily doing the wrong things. It's just that they're not paying the attention to the detail. And that's a major detail that was completely missed.
All right. As I keep reading these matches, it feels like a lot of stories are coming to an end. So I'm getting I know Double or Nothing is supposed to be their biggest show of the year. This has like the ending. It feels like the ending of the story. You got Adam Page and Matt Hardy. The winner receives the loser's 2021 first quarter earnings. So obviously Matt Hardy has been presented as a money hungry whore. Who you got winning?
Adam Page. I mean, the reason why I'm reacting the way that I'm reacting is because you got two guys in AEW who should be. I should be much more excited about both of these guys, and yet I'm not. I'm just not. Adam Page should be a guy that should be much closer to the main event than he is right now. Much closer.
Well, I think he's pretty close to the main event. This is a big match. I know Matt Hardy has had some ups and downs. He's still a big star.
I will say this. Matt Hardy is a big star, and I'm not denying that. The thing is that in the context and the way that he's been presented in AEW, there's no way in hell that you can convince me that he's a big star. He's not. The way he's currently presented, Adam Page, the way that he's currently presented, is not a big star. That's the problem that I have. If both of these guys would have been presented much better, then this match would have been a big money match, meaning that you can do the whole Q1 earnings. That's a stupid, ridiculous storyline component. And it's obviously to now the 6th iteration of Matt Hardy's gimmick since he's been in AEW. It's fine. But the match needs to feel a lot more important. It does not. And the thing about it is that no matter who wins or who loses, I don't think that either guy comes out any better because they're just there. They're just there. Neither guy's on the cusp of nothing. And that's bad.
I think Hangman is probably the most beloved babyface in the company. And I think
more than Cody?
He never
more than Cody.
It's close. Cody is my favorite babyface. And I think Cody is the heart and soul.
I would agree with
Cody's the heart
Adam
and soul. Cody's definitely the heart and soul of AEW, and he's one of the most popular people. He's bigger. He's a bigger name than Adam Page.
Of course he is.
But I think Adam Page is like the one that we love to cheer for. I guess you know what I'm saying. He's like
listen. I agree with you.
He hasn't had his moments yet. However, he doesn't lose. He's very well protected. There's a lot of stories around his character. There's a lot going on with him at all times. Yeah. And when it's time to pull the trigger, he's beating Kenny Omega for the title. Do not get this twisted. It might take a year, but he's the next champ. in my opinion, I think he's gonna be the next champ. I mean, obviously, we don't know who they're gonna sign in the next 6 months. Anything could happen. They can get a big name and change the course of history. But I think the stories line up where Hangman could easily be him as a babyface, and you know, eventually when they're ready to pull that trigger, when they're 4 months, 5 months out, he can have some more impactful wins, but he does not lose. That man is very well protected. He does not lose. He's always on pay-per-view. He's always on television.
Yeah.
So I think right now is just keeping the fans in love with him. You know, yes, he's not blowing anything out of the water. You know, he's not doing anything crazy, anything groundbreaking. But he is, they're keeping him hot enough, right? It's good enough so that when they're ready, I don't know what's the plan. Of course, I don't know if they probably have this planned out. They probably have the whole 2020 planned out. I mean 2021 planned out. I don't know if how long Kenny Omega's gonna hold the title, but in my opinion, based on the stories that they've told, and just like based on the stories that they told, it made sense for Omega to beat Moxley. Based on the stories they've told, I think it makes sense for Hangman to beat Omega. Anything could happen, but I think he's protected enough, and when it's time to pull the trigger, they will, and that's when you see the best version of Hangman, hopefully, because with AEW, some things happen organically, like you see that growth. It's old school. It's like the way they used to do it back in the day, the Bret Hart and Shawn Michaels push, IC title, and then here we go, main event, and you kind of see it. That's kind of how it is. So obviously he can lose some momentum, but I think he's fine. And they're gonna try to time it. It's not easy to time it, but it's possible. We've seen it many, many times in the past. So hopefully it works out. But I think he's fine. I think this will be another big whiff from. He can lose. Matt Hardy can screw him, and he can get Matt Hardy. He might have to get him at the next pay-per-view, but I think he's gonna win. I think he's gonna win. He's gonna have some extra money. He's gonna buy some new cowboy boots.
Hopefully buy himself a new shirt. But listen, I want, as far as I'm concerned, I've always looked at Adam Page as the one guy that AEW has that has not been presented as a main event star and could easily be. He's a young man. He looks great. His physique has gotten better since he's been in AEW. He can do a lot of the high flying stuff that that everybody in AEW does, but he has a tough guy. He has enough of a tough guy persona to him that you want to cheer for him. And by far, I want to cheer for him. I so badly want to root for him and cheer for him. The issue that I have is that when you have a guy who's that talented and is at the cusp of being the main event, I'm sorry, putting him in storylines that with the Dark Order and Private Party and now TH2, no disrespect meant here. These are all lower card performers.
Yeah,
and I'm sorry,
main event matches.
I get it, but what I'm saying is that at the end of the day, when you have a guy like him, like Adam Page, who has the great potential of being an outstanding main event money drawing talent for your promotion, you should not be putting him in the ring consistently and constantly with lower card talent who could be up and comers. And I don't want people talking about 5 years from now. I don't care about 5 years from now. I care about the next month, 6 months. Those guys that I've just mentioned are not going to draw nothing for AEW. Adam Page has a very good shot of doing just that. So that's the reason why I don't like Adam Page being put in these situations, because I'm like, man, you're a star and you're mucked up with all this stuff. And I don't care how talented all of those guys are, because this is not a shot at them as people or as wrestlers or their talent or their discipline or determination. It's got nothing to do with any of that. It's a matter of presentation. You've always been presented as lower card performers, And nothing that you have done up to this point convinces me that you're going to go up the ladder anytime soon. So Adam Page needs to be removed from that scene and put in with other performers that are near the level where he needs to get to, so that when he does beat them, and you can start telling me the story about he's going to beat Kenny Omega, fine. But it's going to be less believable if he spends the next 2 or 3 months working with these undercard talents. Sorry. He has to get out of there, like, now. If we got to get through this match with Matt Hardy, fine. Beat Matt Hardy and get the hell out of there. Move on.
But that's what I'm saying. Matt Hardy's not an undercard talent. He's
The
fought
way
Pac,
the
he's fought Kenny.
correct, but the way that he is currently presented,
Yeah, but of course you
I
have
don't care. I don't
2
care
years
about
of
his past.
storytelling.
I don't care about his past because he's only been in AEW for less than a year. I don't care that he worked with Kenny Omega or that he's done it means nothing because he's been presented over the last 6 months or so where he's basically been a guy that they were trying to put him to work with Sammy Guevara in an attempt to try to make Sammy Guevara an over singles heel. That ended up turning on its ear with that horrible accident that happened and damn near killed Matt Hardy. Thank God that he survived it and that he's healthy and he's still with us. But then you flip the dime on Matt Hardy, and he was supposed to be just regular Matt Hardy, and that could have worked. But then they flipped the switch on that immediately, and then they started doing all the other gimmicks. Now he's being this sleazeball manager. I'm like, no. I understand that you're trying to bring back the manager persona to AEW, and I appreciate the fact that they're trying to do that. But the thing is that if you're going to put Matt Hardy in that situation, then Matt Hardy is, the way that he's presented at that point, he is no longer a top talent at that moment. Because now he's being utilized as a guy that's basically being put underneath to help the new up and coming guys come up. And if he's not wrestling and he's being used in a manager role, then to put him in there against a guy like Adam Page, who should be presented as a top guy every second that he's on television, and putting him in there with the Dark Order, I don't care, if they're being presented as baby faces, likable or not, undercard talents. Private Party, I like them both. They're good. They're both good, young, talented young men. They're undercard talent. TH2, forget it, undercard talent. It's no disrespect to them. It's just a matter that you have guys who are special, and those guys need to be treated and presented as such. Because this idea that AEW has sometimes, that they think that we can put one of our quote unquote stars and help bring up and help elevate the younger guys, you do that too often. What ends up happening is those younger guys can have the greatest matches in the world against the Adam Pages, Cody Rhodes of the world and of such. But the thing is that one match or that one or two, small group of matches that they have don't elevate said young talent to the next level because they've never been presented as anything prior to. And then it's not followed up. So then what ends up happening is it becomes kind of a waste because you might have a great match with the young talent, but that's not followed up, so it gets forgotten. And then the talent that's supposed to be a top talent, with all due respect, gets slightly diminished because they're being taken to the limit by talents that are perceived as undercard guys. So it's a recipe for disaster from a storytelling and booking perspective, because you want everybody to be viewed as as some bodies. And I can understand that, and that's a very commendable disposition, but it's not good.
I mean,
you have talents that need to be presented as such.
They have. I mean, yes, the matches are competitive. However, the big stars win the matches.
It doesn't matter.
It does matter because 50-50 booking is what really hurts talent.
But no,
there is no 50-50 booking in AEW.
But the reason why I say that it doesn't matter that the guy who's supposed to win does win is because it's generally one match. Generally speaking, it's usually one match. The talent, it's not followed up, meaning the talent who lost, the young talent who lost and had a great performance or a good showing, it doesn't get followed up the next week.
Yeah, but he's there to lose. So
I get it.
if
But
he's
the thing
good,
is,
he'll be back.
if you're there, that I get it. They're there to lose. But the thing is that if you're there to lose, then you really need to look at the example of what Ryan Nemeth did this past week on AEW Dynamite against Jon Moxley. That was exactly what a squash match should look like.
Yeah,
Ryan Nemeth did get some of his stuff in, but he was there to get his ass kicked and he was there to lose because he's there. Ryan Nemeth has got a bunch of potential and a bunch of talent. And if he's able to be as good as his brother Dolph Ziggler is, he'll be fantastic in AEW. But at that moment and that night, he was there to lose to Jon Moxley.
Mm-hmm.
And he was not there to give Moxley a 15-minute match because it would make Moxley look like shit, even if Moxley wins. So he's there. He got beat in 4 minutes. Perfect. But you can't have Adam Page working competitive matches that are 10, 12, 15 minutes against undercard talent that are then not featured afterwards to follow up on it, because then those young talents are not given more TV time to establish themselves as somebody to the audience, and then Adam Page by proxy gets slightly diminished every time. It's not that one match is going to kill him because he's winning. You're right. He doesn't lose, but he's not winning convincingly against guys that from a perception perspective should not be that competitive with him.
I mean, to me, we need to move on, but to me, Adam Page has been damn near dominant. He's as dominant a guy in the entire company. That's fine. When we watch the pay-per-view and we review the pay-per-view, we'll reconvene. Well, do you want him to squash Matt Hardy? No, not at all. This match should not be a pay-per-view match. I expect no. 15 minutes. No, it's not going to be a squash match. But the thing about it is that this match needs to probably be somewhere in the vicinity of like 60, 65, 35 for Page, meaning that it still has to look, Page still has to look most dominant because there's more stories to tell with him. He's got more in front of him than Matt Hardy does. So Matt Hardy has to do the favors and he has to do it convincingly. All right. Who do you got winning the Face of the Revolution ladder match? The only problem is... All right, read me that match again. What's the call? Face of the Revolution. Okay, who's in this match? The only problem is we don't know. There's a secret person who's probably going to win it. But so we already know who the winner is. All right, tell me the lineup. Tell me who's in this match. Cody, Scorpio Sky, Penta, Lance Archer, Preston Vance is going to face Max Caster. I think Preston Vance is probably going to win this. Lance. Oh, he's Lance Caster is one of the... Max Caster is the rapper. Okay, yeah. Okay, yeah. That dude got potential. I can't wait to see him in 5 years. He kind every time I look at him, he looks like Russell Wilson. Yeah, he does a little bit. Yeah. And then there's one extra person. I think it might be, if I'm making just throwing a shot in the dark, I'm gonna go with like a Shawn Spears. I think that'll be a good spot for him, and it'll be a good spot for him to win it. If I mean, I don't know if they signed somebody. That's the problem. It could be a surprise. I think it's going to be for an outside person. It might be an outside person. It might be an outside person. But seeing the people that are in it, Cody has history with Shawn Spears. Scorpio Sky has history with Shawn Spears. It feels like a Shawn Spears spot. Maybe not. I'd like to see him in this spot, and I'd like to see him win. So that's going to be my prediction. It's probably an outsider, but that's just my prediction because I don't know who it is. Well, listen, in a match like this, when you take a look, you're saying, all right, so we got Cody, Scorpio Sky, Penta, Lance Archer. It'll probably be Preston Vance. He's going to probably advance. Yeah. He'll probably be the guy who advances. And then you got the mystery opponent. Yeah. This match is going to be, at least from the lineup that we see, this match will probably be much better than the Casino ladder match from last year's Double or Nothing because the talent is better. I'm still gonna go with the mystery person only because what are the stakes? Is TNT championship opportunity? TNT championship match. All right, so listen, let's eliminate Preston Vance because again, he's impressive looking, but unfortunately, he's still in that Dark Order gimmick. And we have to assume Darby's gonna be the champ. And Darby's a babyface. He'll probably face a heel. Maybe it doesn't have to be.
Well, yes, but in this case here, God, I can't believe I'm just gonna say what I'm thinking. Part of me is like, please AEW, do not put Taz's kid in this match and have him win.
No, I don't think he's wrestling anytime.
Yeah, no, he's certainly not. But that just came in my head.
He's probably gonna be good though.
Listen, I have no idea. So I got no opinion one way or another on the kid. If he's great, fantastic. If he's not, okay, so what? Preston Vance, we could disqualify him. Scorpio Sky is gonna have a great performance, but this is not a match for him to win. This is just a match to feature him. Same thing with Penta. You know, Penta's coming back from injury, and to come back from injury in a match like this is only a recipe for yet another injury. So it just kind of like Lance Archer is the big dude that's gonna, again, Lance Archer does a lot of shit wrong just because of the fact that he wants to be, he's such a big dude, and he still wants to be able to do, a lot of these high flying, cruiserweight things. And listen, I've always said it that I don't mind that the big guys can do the high flying stuff. It's just a matter that all of them do it. So it's just like shit.
Kind of limited to one spot. It's just one spot he does.
I get it. But even then, when you have a guy like that, and you have the other participants in the ring, with the exception, I mean, this match is not is a little more blended because Cody's not a high flyer, Lance Archer's not a high flyer, Preston Vance, I'm presuming, is not a high flyer. So it's gonna be a little more balanced in that regard. Cody, no, just because I think that with Cody, it's not meant for him to win. If it's going to be for the TNT title, there's got to be some kind of stake. It's going to probably be somebody new, somebody new to AEW. Do I think it's going to be Spears? No, because if Spears were to enter this match and win, the beefs that he's had are against the guys that he's in the ring against. And what ends up happening is that then you're going to put him in a TNT title match. And even though he has had quote unquote issues in the past, a little, I don't know if he's had issues with Darby Allin, but part of me doesn't think that that's the next big thing for him. They got to do more with him. But it would be a nice spot because I'm a big fan. I'm a huge fan of Shawn Spears, and he's another one of those guys that I'm like, I don't know why he's not getting more TV time on Dynamite, but that's a discussion for another day. But I would definitely go with whoever the mystery man is. I'll take that door wink. I'll take that one.
Okay. We have Miro and Kip against best friends. Not really best friends, kind of best friends. Orange Cassidy and Chuck Taylor. I mean, I guess the baby faces have to win, no?
No. The heels need to go over. Miro's on the team, but the fucking heels. Sorry for the F-bomb, folks. Miro is with the heels. Heels go over. End of discussion. Period. Done. Finito. It's ridiculous. Any other scenario is ridiculous. Sorry. Heels go over. And it's because Miro is on that team. And if they don't go over, like how?
I mean, because baby faces win when the story's over. At the end of the story, baby faces should win. The fan favorites should win. The fans should go home happy. If this is the end of the story.
You're not wrong, Vic. You're not wrong.
I want Miro to look like a monster.
That's why they have to win.
I'm okay if Miro wins. I'm okay with that.
No, Miro has to win.
I'm okay with that.
With all due respect, again, with all due respect to Kip Sabian, this goes back to the same premise that I've said before. When you take a look at Chuck Taylor, you know how I feel about Chuck Taylor. He's a good wrestler, but no. You know how I feel about Orange Cassidy. And Kip Sabian, again, good wrestler. But in this equation, one of these things is not like the others. Miro is a man amongst boys in this match. And there's no way that his team should lose if he's on the team. Period.
Okay.
If you're going to elevate Miro, at some point Miro has to beat somebody. and he has to kill these baby faces.
All right,
This
I'm
is
with
the
you.
time to do
I'm with you. Let's have Miro. I'm okay with Miro beating the baby faces. All right, let's move on to the main event. An
Really?
exploding
That's the main
barbed
event?
wire death match.
No women's match? No
Yeah, but they
women's
haven't
matches?
announced. They haven't announced the.
Yeah, the winner, whoever the
Yeah,
finals.
so we don't know yet. So I don't
Okay,
want to speak on it because I have no idea.
All right, we'll skip
It'll
it.
probably be Rio Mizunami, only because we've already seen Nyla Rose against Shida probably like 3 times. So it'll be nice to switch it up.
Oh, so Nyla Rose beat Thunder Rosa?
Yeah, which I know.
Oh, I love Thunder Rosa.
If Thunder Rosa, the second, I promise you, the second that Thunder Rosa signs on the dotted line and becomes officially part of AEW, which I think she will.
She hasn't.
That
She
girl,
still has it.
no,
She
she has.
still
She's part of
Oh my
NWA.
gosh.
And NWA apparently starting a new show. They got a pay-per-view and everything coming out. So NWA is
Wow.
holding on. So they're keeping their best talent. So
Oh, I don't blame them. Thunder Rosa is fantastic.
she's
But
great.
if she's been on AEW TV for this long, Tony, you need to call Billy Corgan and tell him, Billy, what is it going to take? Buy her out.
I don't
Like,
think Billy's
seriously.
having it. I think Billy's
I
got
don't
money.
care.
Billy's like,
Tony Khan is a
good.
billionaire. I would at least make the ask. If Billy Corgan tells me flat out no, that's one thing, but I got to at least make the ask.
I mean, maybe he did. I don't see Billy Corgan letting that go until the ship. I think he's gonna go down with the ship. If the ship is gonna sink, Corgan's gonna be like this on the ship, like.
Yeah, listen, I
agree
with you.
That's the right way to do it.
If
he loves it, he loves it. So.
I mean, listen, listen, I'm not disagreeing with you. It's just a matter that I'm disappointed because, again, Nyla Rose is going to get to be in a pay-per-view match against probably a Japanese wrestler that most American fans have no idea who she is. Will probably lose to her, and we'll go right back to the same problem that we've had with Nyla Rose. Nyla Rose could have been very impressive in this tournament. Guess what? No one saw it because none of these matches aired on television.
Well, to be fair, yes, they did not air on television, but this was the first time I saw the tournament. And finally, I am confident and I'm ready to see more women's matches. There's people who get mad, oh, AEW has to put the women on TV. They do, but the women have to be ready for TV. We can't just reward. We can't just reward people. So in the beginning of AEW,
I'm in no disagreement with you on this. I'm not.
When AEW first started and they had their full roster, things were a little shaky, but I was confident. I was still okay with the women. The women were fine, but they started losing 2 people. Then they lost 4 people. Then they lost 6 people. And when they got to the bottom of the barrel, the matches were just really, 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 really bad, and they should not be on television.
I mean, listen, I didn't have any confidence in the women's division when they came out of the chute. None. Because really it was very clear that the talent that they had was, and again, it's not fair for me to do this, but I have to compare them with the WWE's women's roster. It's not fair to do it, and I'm prefacing this by saying it's not fair. But you have to, because if AEW's on national cable television competing against the WWE, even though they're competing against NXT, you have to compare the 2 women's rosters. And it's night and day. It is major leagues against the minor leagues. No disrespect to any of the women on AEW. So yes, I understand that they would not put them on TV because the matches got that bad. They were never really great to begin with, but then they lost. A lot of their women got hurt because of the fact that they're not experienced workers and they ended up hurting each other, doing more than they should be. When Serena,
I don't know if it's that.
Part of it is that. Part of it is that they're trying too hard.
I don't think
so. In certain instances, they're trying too hard. But then, when Serena Deeb and Thunder Rosa showed up, you're like, wow, yes, we got something here. With Nyla Rose should have been presented as a monster. They screwed that up royally. AEW screwed that up royally.
I agree. Nyla Rose has been the biggest letdown, and she should have been booked like a Kane. Like, even if you don't want to put the belt on them, just keep them a monster at all times. Even if they don't have matches, just keep them a monster. If
Correct.
If they have to lose the matches, don't put them in the match. Don't have them in the match.
And that's the issue, is that they had Nyla Rose lose clean to, again, when she lost, when on the very first episode of Dynamite, when she lost to Riho. That was like, how do you come back from that? When she beat Riho, she had to hit Listen, I think that probably, most male wrestlers took less of an ass whipping to lose than Riho did. And I'm sorry, Riho looks like a child. She looks like a small child. I don't care how much sympathy or how much the fans like her. It shouldn't have taken Nyla Rose that much to beat Riho. And it did. So ultimately, even though Nyla Rose won and was the AEW Women's Champion, she basically got buried by winning because she had to do so much. Then she's lost matches she shouldn't have lost, been in situations she should have never been in. Then now she's in the finals of this tournament. And bravo, I'm happy for her, but none of these matches aired on television. And if you mean to tell me that Nyla Rose versus Thunder Rosa can't make it on television, seriously, what the hell?
That match could have been on television.
No, should have been on television.
Well, I don't know.
Should have been.
I don't know the political, what's going on behind the scenes. I don't know. So I'm not going to speak on it. However, the women need this tournament was the proving point, right? They had to prove that they can have matches. They don't have to be great matches, but matches that at least there's not so many mistakes. You know what I'm saying? Like technical errors.
I didn't see any of these matches, so I'm gonna take your word for it.
No, I assure you that it's night and day. Finally, there's a confidence level that I'm very happy with. I was very happy. Some of the matches were really, really fun to watch. And the most important part, because you can disagree with booking and you can disagree with that, but the problem with the women, even if you disagree with the booking, even if the booking was perfect, the technical,
not good.
The technical execution, even if the layout was perfect, the technical, there were too many little technical errors that you don't see professional wrestlers have that often. I really don't see that on television.
Well, and I'm sorry to cut you off, but there's a reason for that. The reason for that is very simple. When you have wrestlers who, and listen, this is not not meant to be a shot at the women of AEW, but it's just a matter that these women were put on TV not having enough experience to be able to pull it off. Just at the end of the day, they just, I'm sorry to say this, they just weren't good enough.
Yeah,
they weren't good enough. And what ends up happening is that when you're on national cable, I'm sorry, people, there was a time, especially on WWE, 20 years ago, when they had a lot of females that were beautiful women but had no business being in the ring. And you had women like Jacqueline Moore, Molly Holly, and the like, who basically handheld some of these girls to good to great matches. Some of those women, aka Trish Stratus, ended up becoming a fantastic wrestler, but she was the exception and not the norm. But the thing is, when you have a group of women who are determined as all hell, because I'm sure the AEW women's roster have all the determination and all the want to be successful, but they don't have the know-how, and there's no one there. Forget about the producers or the people, trying to walk them through it. It's actually having somebody in the ring that knows what the hell she's doing in those situations and can walk them through it in ring, on the job training. And that's where when Serena Deeb showed up, you're like, you went sky high in terms of quality because she knows what the hell she's doing. Thunder Rosa, same thing. So the one thing that I'm a little bit afraid of is that when this show goes on and we see this women's tournament match between Nyla Rose and whoever wins the Japanese bracket.
Oh, it's Nyla or Rio, not Riho. Rio. It's a different Rio. It's gonna face Shida. Whoever wins between them two. Okay, it's gonna face Shida at the pay. So it's Shida against somebody else.
All right, so then you're talking about Nyla Rose, and here's the thing about it. This Rio girl, I don't know who the hell she is, and I'm sure that a vast majority of the American audience who watches this show is going to be saying the same thing.
You will meet her on Wednesday.
And
she will be on television.
Fine. But the thing that's going to end up happening is that if let's say for example Rio wins the match. Let's just say, right, for example, she wins. So again, what we're telling the audience is that Nyla Rose, and I'm presuming that this Rio girl is small. I've never seen her. I don't know.
Not that small, no. Not like she's bigger than Sheeta.
Okay, all right. So then that's good. That's good.
At least I didn't see them together, so I shouldn't say that. My perception was that she's bigger than Sheeta.
Okay, that's fine. I'm taking everything at your word right now.
Yeah, but I don't know if she really is bigger than Sheeta.
But what I'm saying is that in a situation like this, I would not have had Nyla Rose be in the final for this reason, because of the fact that if you're not going to present Nyla Rose on television, right? None of these matches were presented on television. Then you should have probably had Thunder Rosa be the person, because at that point she can get in the ring, wrestle Rio, and if you want Rio to win, she can have a fantastic match with Thunder Rosa. It's not going to kill Rosa because she's been winning a lot more than she loses. And the last time that we saw Nyla Rose on television, she was doing some backstage bullshit segment, with Jade Cargill and Brandy Rhodes, pre-pregnancy. She hasn't been presented, Nyla Rose has, as anything. And unfortunately, you can't put her in a situation like this where she loses to another unknown commodity that the U.S. audience doesn't know. She, meaning Nyla Rose, does not have nearly enough equity to lose matches like that. Thunder Rosa does. And it's weird because it might be an issue of, we may not want to pay the NWA. Listen, if you're AEW and you want to be able to present Nyla Rose on TV, she has to win.
I mean, maybe we definitely need to move on from this. But
I know,
maybe in their minds they just don't see her the way we see her.
Well,
that's also possible.
Well, I say this with all due respect to if AEW doesn't see Nyla Rose that way, cut bait and let her go. Because right now she's in a situation where, listen, she could leave AEW, disappear, and show up on WWE TV a year from now, and they can do something better with her.
I don't even think they would have the balls to sign her, to be honest.
Well, probably not. But what I'm saying is that if somebody else, Ring of Honor, MLW, anybody else, NWA, if they could get their act together financially, if there is anybody else that can do it, if AEW is not ready to commit, cut bait, let her go. Seriously, because it's not going to hurt your business one tiny bit to not have her on your roster. Let's move on.
All right. Who's winning? Kenny Omega or Jon Moxley? Will anybody get involved? What's gonna happen? Even if you don't like the match,
the title's on the line, right? The title's on the line?
Yeah, title's on the line.
So Omega's going over.
I think Omega's going over too.
Omega's going over. Holy Christ. The premise of this match is the shits to begin with. Seriously, this is the dumbest possible idea for a match. Dumbest. Kenny Omega has never ever been presented as a guy that should be working this type of match.
Well, he's had more of these type of matches than almost anyone. But
Kenny
on AEW, not in.
No. I'm talking about the gimmick, the exploding barbed wire bullshit.
Oh, no one on AEW has had this match.
I know, but what I'm saying is that when you look at Kenny Omega, the way his presentation, the way he's presented,
yes,
he looks like a fish out of water in that environment. Moxley, the way that he's presented fits that environment. So why would Kenny Omega as the champion say, screw it, I need to quote unquote end you, but I'm going to put my neck, my body, my career, and my title in a match that is advantageous to you?
Because
That's stupid.
He's arrogant. His ego is bigger than his brain.
Oh God. Listen. You might be
wants
right
to beat him.
That.
He wants to beat him at his own game, and he
Listen,
he will.
it's just all I know is that this type of match. First of all, do I want to see Omega versus Moxley again in a one-on-one match? No, not really. It's too soon. It's too soon. They had the match in December. We're talking March. Like, come on, it's too soon. I don't need to see them rematch. Give me something else.
Well, it's a lot better than 5 straight times every 2 weeks. You got to admit that.
What I'm saying is that, yeah, that's fine. I get it. You know, if AEW had to do 7 hours of live TV, they probably might do the same thing. But that's
see, I like how you go hard on AEW. It's too soon because they having a match 3 months apart. 3 months apart.
I'm not.
But
what
you
I'm
have
saying
an excuse.
What I'm saying is for WWE. No. Whoa.
7 hours of television.
No.
They have to have the same match over and over.
No. Cut that nonsense out. What I'm saying is that I'm not condoning WWE and saying, "Ooh, rah, that's great." No, do I want to see the same matches 6 weeks in a row? No, it's garbage. It's awful. After a while, there's nothing in it. You're killing it.
All right,
back
to Kenny.
What ends up happening here with Kenny Omega is this match with Moxley. I'm like, all right, we've already seen it. I've seen the pairing, and the thing is that with Omega has the majority of the work that Omega's been doing in AEW since then has really been fomenting this relationship with Impact. So it almost seems like he hasn't moved on from this Moxley thing yet. And I think that's the story they're telling, is that Moxley, this hasn't moved on. This gimmick match, I hope, as ridiculous and as much as I don't like the concept of it, but I think that there's going to be, hopefully, some conclusion here to where we can say, all right, enough. We are not going to see Jon Moxley versus Kenny Omega anytime soon on AEW. It's over. After this match, it's over. No more. We need to move on. We need to separate you guys. Again, Omega has to now become the heel champion, whether they're going to go, Ric Flair horsemanish type thing, or they're going to make him a chicken shit, heel, or the cocky, whatever way they're going to present Kenny Omega, do it. But you gotta present him now to where his in-ring skill gets presented, and that he is presented as the leader of whatever match he's in, completely leading, that like, all right, Omega's the star of that match. Meaning, it doesn't matter who Omega's wrestling with, you want to see him. And that he's the star of the match, not his opponent. It doesn't have to be in equal sharing or equal billing. He's the star. If you get an opponent of equal star caliber, perfect. That's icing on the cake. That's gravy, but it's not necessary. You have to do that, and then because then if you strengthen his position as the champion, and have him become whatever version of a heel AEW champion he's going to become, it's going to foment really good things for him. And then whoever's the babyface, let's say, because I believe it will be, I agree with you, I believe it will be Adam Page in whatever future it is, then it's going to make Adam Page that much stronger when he beats Omega and becomes the AEW champion. But this has to end. This thing with Moxley has to end. Because, sans the gimmick, because I think the gimmick is awful, but this has to end. Like we have to move on.
I think they want to step it up, and I think it doesn't get much crazier than this. So I think it is the end. It's never really the end, right? Because they're probably going to be in this company, both of them, who knows how many years, 10 years maybe each. But yes, it should be the end for a while. So
a long while.
Yeah. All right.
A long while.
So we have a couple minutes left.
Sure.
Real quick, let's get into. I was watching Raw, and Charlotte's cutting her promo, and it's probably going to lead to Asuka Charlotte, and I kind of don't want to see it. And I think they've done a really, really poor job. They did a good job with Sasha and Bianca, even though I don't like Sasha's too heelish for me.
That's her natural role.
I know it's a natural role, but I think you have to, whatever. I'm not going to get into it, but they can do it.
Let's do it.
She can do it. Sasha can do a better job of not coming off as such a dick. She's a bit. I know that's her. I like that she's using most of her natural self, but there has to be a limit. Like, don't make me hate you either. As the top babyface in the on SmackDown, don't make me hate you. Yes, eventually you could build to that. Like, she can also play that veteran that's like, oh, you're just you don't have a shot against me. I'm the veteran. But she's been acting like a heel her whole babyface run. She's been kind of a heel. So I don't know if I like that. I think especially she does her little laugh. She's been doing that against Carmella too. And against Carmella's a heel. They're very similar characters. That was an opportunity for her to be more of a babyface.
Well,
now it makes sense for her to go a little bit on the heel side, but it's still, to me, too much. It's still too much.
Well, I mean, listen, and I'll keep this brief. I think the reality is that, and it goes back to what I spoke about, when we did the review of the Royal Rumble, when Bianca won, and I said, this is what's going to end up happening, is that it's going to be Bianca Belair versus Sasha Banks. Sasha Banks is going to have to turn heel. Now, you might be of the opinion that Sasha Banks is she's going too far into the heel side right now, which is, not to your flavor. You'd want her to be a little more babyface-ish with a hint of heel that you can see coming, and it will show its face eventually. You just think she's putting down her cards a little too soon.
If she's really turning heel, that's fine. But she's been acting like a heel. Even 3 months ago, she was still acting kind of like a heel.
Yes,
so that's right now it makes sense. Right now, when she's gonna go against Bianca, if she's gonna go heel, or even if she's heel just for this program, I think it's too much, because you're gonna make me hate you, and I might not. You might not get me back, Sasha, even though I love you. I really do love her, but
I think that here it's going to come down to a point where Sasha Banks is going to have to be heelish, because it's more of, again, it's the way that Bianca Belair has been presented. She's been presented as she's coming for the title, and it appears. All things appear that Bianca Belair is not going to be denied come WrestleMania. She will walk out the SmackDown Women's Champion at the end of WrestleMania. That's how it appears right now. Mm-hmm. And the thing is that Sasha Banks is no dummy. She knows this. And even if she's a babyface, she's encountering another babyface that looks to be of equal or greater strength than her at this moment. Meaning strength, skill, momentum, the whole thing. So it kind of makes sense that Sasha Banks would be more heelish at this moment. I get it. When she was working against Carmella, it kind of seemed a little crazy. But again, with Carmella is not the kind of heel that the audience is intimidated by. I think that she is a heel that she's a heel that can present the challenge, but you don't believe at the end of the day that she's going to beat you, because she hasn't been presented as that kind of a threat.
But she would have been a very hated Baron Corbin type heel. She has the potential. Had Sasha not taken some of that heat off of her and put it on herself.
Okay, okay, agreed,
but that's not what I wanted to talk about.
No, let's get off of this.
The Raw side, because this is still going to work. Sasha Bianca's going to work no matter what.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I'm happy that they're fighting. Poor Asuka. They don't know what I guess they're going Charlotte Asuka. I have no interest in that match at all. As a matter of fact, when Nia and Shayna were talking shit to Charlotte, my mind went, oh shit, what would be cool? If Charlotte had a little bit of a backup, not named Asuka, maybe a Rhea Ripley. What an introduction, and what a way to get close to Charlotte. And that's a better match. Maybe not technical, but storyline wise, it is a better, more intriguing situation to have Rhea and Charlotte face Shayna and Nia. Because Shayna and Nia, I'm not a huge fan, but they've been presented pretty strong.
Yes, they have.
So they're pretty strong. They have some momentum. And to me, they have way more momentum than Asuka. The problem is they have no one else on the Raw roster. They've set no one up to no one. You know how Lashley, he was protected well enough, so when it was his turn and they called the audible or whatever the plan was, they go, okay, we're going with Lashley. It was okay. They don't have not a soul on that Raw roster that they can plug in to face Asuka. So we're gonna be stuck with Charlotte and Asuka. They can come up with some creative things, but everyone else is on the SmackDown side. I don't know how they get Bailey, or I don't know how they do anything to fix it. But if I was booking Mania, to be honest, the idea didn't come to me. So this is hindsight, so it's not fair. Okay. But once I saw Shayna and Nia talking junk to Charlotte, I was like, oh my God, how cool would it be if Rhea comes out right now and helps Charlotte for now just to get close. And eventually they can have their rivalry, their feud, and pay that off eventually.
See, here's the thing, right? I like the idea of having Rhea Ripley be the partner instead of Asuka in that situation. Here's where the caveat lies. You can't have Rhea Ripley versus Charlotte Flair without the women's title being in the picture. It can't happen. It just can't. Because for Rhea Ripley, the culmination of whatever comeback story they're trying to tell with her has to culminate with her being the women's champion. And it makes the most sense for Rhea Ripley to beat Charlotte Flair to be, the women's champion. Let's just say the Raw women's champion. It makes the most sense because it's basically tit for tat. You took away the NXT title from me at WrestleMania last year. I take the Raw women's title from you wherever far down the line they do it. I do agree with you. Asuka has no steam to her right now, none, and it's amazing to me. And again, this comes down to, because I would have believed that the WrestleMania match may have ended up being a triple threat match with Asuka, Charlotte Flair, and Lacey Evans. Lacey Evans gets pregnant; she's out of the picture. They have to end that storyline abruptly, and now Charlotte Flair, who is the biggest women's star they have on their roster, is floating with really nothing to do because her storyline got derailed. So yes, it's a completely awkward transition, and you're like, oh hell, how do you transition this? And now we get a match that Asuka's the women's champion, but yet Asuka is ice cold right now. Charlotte Flair, after being out for several months, got brought back in not the best of circumstances, meaning the way that they took the titles off of Shayna and Nia Jax. The story that they've been telling, everything it's just been very disjointed and not very well thought out and executed. And now it's like we're getting to this match, and with all due respect, neither woman is in a position where this match means anything really. So it sucks because when you look at Asuka and when you look at Charlotte Flair, there's no reason for any of us to believe that it shouldn't be a top feature match at WrestleMania. It just doesn't feel that way.
They just have given almost no thought to Asuka. But I don't think they're going to go with my idea. I'm pretty sure they're not. So, realistically, let's say it's 2 nights. If I am them, I have Shayna and Nia defend against...
They wrestle on night 1.
Yes, night 1. Defend against Asuka and Charlotte. Charlotte can turn on Asuka that same night. They don't win the tag titles. That sets up the match for the next night. And this is almost like a little bit of a little old school right here, right? When you set up the very next week or whatever, sometimes the next night, sometimes the weekend, the house show, the weekend house show, you do something on Friday to set up Saturday. Mm-hmm. It's literally no better time. Everyone who's watching WrestleMania Night 1 is watching WrestleMania Night 2, I would imagine.
Correct.
Let's set up, at least put some steam behind Asuka Charlotte. Let's do it at Mania. Have Charlotte turn on Asuka at Mania, set up the match for night 2. And then maybe this is where I kind of wish they weren't teasing Rhea or letting us know that Rhea was showing up. Maybe Rhea...
Yeah, there's no need for that.
Maybe Rhea getting in Charlotte's face after Charlotte wins the title. Maybe the Monday night after WrestleMania. That's always really, really fun. That's always a great debut night. That would have been nice.
That's the beginning of the year for WWE.
Yeah, so that would be nice. That would be the first story. Unfortunately, it kind of kicks Asuka to the curb, but Asuka's good enough to recover eventually. Maybe do a swap on the brands. Maybe put her to SmackDown. Move somebody to Raw, and
move Bayley to Raw.
Move Bayley to Raw. Yes, I agree. Asuka to SmackDown and tell some new stories. Charlotte wins the title at Mania night 2. Monday night, Rhea gets in her face. That's it. That's the next feud for I don't know how many months you want to tell it, how you want to tell it. We need heel Charlotte, babyface Rhea for the title. It's too soon to happen at Mania, so let's hopefully they go that way. I don't know what they're gonna do, but
SummerSlam.
Set it up for SummerSlam. That's the payoff. That's
hopefully
Rhea can win.
Hopefully by SummerSlam they can have an audience there, like an actual like a live audience, and they're gonna have a live audience for WrestleMania, but it's gonna be a small one. But let's just say they can do open air arena somewhere, because in the summer they can pretty much go anywhere they want to. The worst thing that can happen is rain, but that's it's something that WWE can consider. And I think that SummerSlam might, if you're going to set it up the way that you're presenting it, that's a match for SummerSlam. If you want to do it at the, I don't want to call it the soonest possible date, but that would be the next.
It's a big enough. It's a big enough show. We have fans now. You can have fans now in certain places, and a nice amount of fans that can make noise.
By August, you'll be fine.
They're about to. I think the Barclays. So New York is letting fans into arenas really, really, really soon, if not already. I forgot what date they already started, right?
They're already doing it.
So you're good. You're pretty much
small percentages, but hey, and the thing is, the WWE is they're not gonna leave the state of Florida anytime soon until they're guaranteed that they can get more bodies, because it doesn't make any sense for them to do so. The cost of renting the arenas and schlepping all the equipment from one place to another. There's no way they can make that money up unless the arenas are at 100% capacity. So they'll be in the state of Florida, and that's totally fine. There's nothing wrong with that.
I'm sure there's some places out there, at least for SummerSlam, that'll make them feel comfortable making that trip. And remember, they have multiple rings, and they don't have to bring the Thunderdome. If they're gonna have fans, you don't need the Thunderdome. They can bring. Well, they can bring some elements.
I mean, it depends, because if you can let's say that you can get 25-30% capacity, that's a very small crowd depending on the size, and no matter the size of the arenas, that's still going to be a very small audience. So the Thunderdome is going to be needed for the aesthetics, and maybe not the virtual fans, because you got real fans, but the whole aesthetics of the Thunderdome is going to
They can bring pieces, but they don't have to bring the whole.
They don't need to schlep the whole thing.
Especially the one that they're using now in the baseball stadium.
Of course.
They don't need all that.
No, you're right.
They can figure something out, because
if anybody can, they can.
Yeah, because the right amount of people, even if it's 4,000 people, if you spread them out in the right spots.
Well, yeah, but see what
in the right spots, it can be really nice.
But what I'm talking about is for the WWE in terms of being able to offset the cost of the entire production.
I know what you mean. So that they don't lose money.
Exactly.
But remember, they're gonna get deals on these buildings. These buildings are thirsty for them to come in. But anyway, we'll see what happens. And we'll see what happens this Sunday at Revolution, right? Revolution.
Absolutely.
Revolution. That's the next pay-per-view. So
AEW Revolution this Sunday night, 7 p.m. pay-per-view.
Yeah, and we'll be we probably should review that, right? So we've been doing all the pay-per-views, so we might as well do that.
Well, listen, we'll review the AEW show. We certainly will.
All right. I think we're good.
Yeah, guys. Thank y'all for continuing to support the Wrestlebros. We are Twitter, Instagram at the Wrestlebros. We've been checking out our subscribers. They keep going up every week. We're thankful. We're grateful. Thank you guys for keeping up with us, and we'll do our best to keep giving y'all great content. Tell your friends, tell your family, tell your neighbors, tell your dog. We'll be here next week. Peace.